The graveyard is full of people who waited for perfect conditions that never came. You're standing at the edge of something. You know it. You feel it. There's a calling in your chest, a project in your mind, a vision that won't let you sleep. But you're waiting for more money, waiting for more time, waiting for more confidence, waiting for the fear to go away, waiting for someone to believe in you, waiting for the stars to align and the conditions to be perfect. And while you wait, life is moving. Time is passing. Opportunities are closing. And that thing inside you, that dream, that purpose, it's suffocating under the weight of your excuses. You think you're being wise. You think you're being responsible. You call it preparation. You call it planning. But let me tell you what it really is. It's fear dressed up in logic. It's procrastination wearing the mask of perfectionism. It's you telling yourself that you're not ready when the truth is you're terrified of failing. You're terrified of being exposed. You're terrified of starting something and discovering that you're not as good as you thought you would be. So you wait. You wait for a sign. You wait for certainty. You wait for conditions that will never exist. And here's what kills me. While you're sitting there waiting for everything to be perfect, someone else with half your talent and twice your courage is already building. They're already failing. They're already learning. They're already growing. They don't have perfect conditions. They don't have all the answers. They don't have a guarantee. But they have something you've lost. They have movement. They have momentum. They have the audacity to begin before they're ready. You've been lied to. Somewhere along the way, someone told you that you need to have it all figured out before you start. That you need perfect circumstances. That you need every resource in place. That you need to eliminate every risk and every variable before you take the first step. And you believed it. You believed that successful people started with perfect conditions. But that's not how it works. That's never how it worked. Every giant you admire started in chaos. Every leader you respect began in confusion. Every breakthrough you celebrate was born in imperfect conditions. The difference between them and you is not that they had better circumstances. The difference is that they moved anyway. They started anyway. They built anyway. They refused to let the absence of perfect conditions steal their future. You're stuck, not because you lack ability, not because you lack vision. You're stuck because you're waiting for a moment that doesn't exist. You're waiting for the day when you'll have enough money, enough support, enough clarity, enough courage, but that day isn't coming. Because enough is a moving target. The moment you reach one level, your mind will create another standard. You'll always find another reason to wait, another excuse to delay, another condition that needs to be met. And while you're trapped in this cycle, something inside you is dying. That fire you once had is turning to ash. That excitement you felt when the vision first hit you is fading into resignation. You're starting to believe that maybe it wasn't meant for you. Maybe you misheard the calling. Maybe you're not the one. And the tragedy is not that you tried and failed. The tragedy is that you never tried at all. Listen to me. The pain you feel right now, that restlessness, that frustration, that sense that you're running out of time, that's not anxiety. That's your purpose knocking. That's your destiny demanding to be born. That's the seed inside you crying out to break through the soil. But you keep pushing it down. You keep telling it to wait. You keep silencing it with rational explanations about why now isn't the right time. You know what a seed does when it's planted in the ground? It doesn't wait for perfect conditions. It doesn't wait for ideal temperature or perfect moisture levels or the right amount of sunlight. It breaks. It splits open in the darkness. It pushes through dirt and pressure and resistance. It doesn't know if it's going to make it. It doesn't have a guarantee. All it has is the design inside it that says grow, and it obeys. But you're smarter than the seed, right? You're more cautious. You're more strategic. So you stay dormant. You stay buried. You stay safe. And you call it wisdom. You call it patience. But it's not patience. It's paralysis. It's fear. It's you choosing the comfort of the known over the risk of the unknown. And every day you make that choice, you drift further from who you were created to be. I've watched it happen. I've seen brilliant minds waste decades waiting for perfect conditions. I've seen incredible talent rot in the storage room of someday. I've seen people with world-changing ideas taken to the grave because they were waiting for approval, waiting for validation, waiting for someone to tell them they were ready, and no one ever did. Because the world doesn't validate you before you begin. The world validates you after you prove it. You think you're alone in this. You think everyone else has it figured out. You look at people who are moving and you assume they have something you don't. Better connections, better resources, better timing. But what they really have is a tolerance for imperfection. They've made peace with starting messy. They've accepted that the first version won't be the best version. They've embraced the truth that you learn by doing, not by waiting. You want to know why you feel so empty? Why you feel so lost? Why you feel like you're watching your life from the outside? It's because you're not doing what you were built to do. You're not moving in the direction your soul is pulling you. You're sitting still. And the human spirit was never designed for stillness. It was designed for growth, for expansion, for creation. And when you suppress that, when you ignore that, when you silence that with excuses about conditions, you don't just delay your dream, you damage yourself. Your manufacturer didn't build you for perfect conditions. Think about that. When a lion cub is born, does the savannah pause all its dangers? Do the hyenas take a break? Does the weather become mild and predictable? No. That cub is born into chaos, into threat, into uncertainty. And yet, within weeks, is learning to hunt, is learning to survive, is learning to become what it was designed to be. Not when conditions are perfect, not when the risk is eliminated. Right now, in the middle of the mess, you are no different. You were not designed to function only when everything is aligned. You were designed to adapt, to overcome, to create solutions in the middle of problems. Your best abilities don't activate in comfort, they activate under pressure. But you've been conditioned to avoid pressure. You've been taught that struggle means something is wrong. That difficulty means you're on the wrong path. So the moment things get hard, the moment conditions aren't ideal, you stop, you retreat. You wait for it to get easier. And here's the trap. It never gets easier. Different, yes, but not easier. Every level has its own challenges. Every season has its own storms. Every new beginning comes with its own set of imperfect conditions. If you're waiting for the phase of life where everything is smooth and clear and simple, you're going to be waiting forever. The question is not whether conditions are perfect. The question is whether you're moving. Direction is more important than perfect circumstances. You can have all the resources in the world and still be building the wrong thing. You can have ideal conditions and still be moving toward nothing. But if you have the right direction, even imperfect steps move you forward. Even messy action creates momentum. Even small beginnings compound into something significant. There's a craftsman in a dark workshop. No windows, no audience. Just him and a blade that needs sharpening. He can't see the final result. He doesn't have perfect lighting. He doesn't have ideal conditions. But he knows the process. Pressure, friction, heat, repetition. And he trusts that the blade is being shaped even when he can't see the progress. He doesn't wait for better conditions to sharpen the blade. He uses the conditions he has. The darkness doesn't stop him. The isolation doesn't stop him. The lack of visibility doesn't stop him. He works anyway. That's you right now. You're in the dark workshop. You can't see the full picture. You don't have all the resources. You don't have perfect conditions. But the sharpening is still happening. The process is still working. The question is whether you're going to trust it enough to keep moving or whether you're going to stop because you can't see the outcome yet. Pottery doesn't form under gentle conditions. It forms under heat, under pressure, under the forceful hands of the potter who squeezes and molds and shapes. And if you ask the clay whether it enjoyed the process, it would say no. The clay doesn't understand why it's being pressed, why it's being heated, why it's being reshaped over and over. All it knows is discomfort. But the potter knows something the clay doesn't. The potter knows that beauty requires pressure. That strength requires heat. That form requires force. You're the clay. And right now, you're being shaped. The uncomfortable conditions you're in, the pressure you're feeling, the heat of the moment is not a sign that you're in the wrong place. It's a sign that you're being formed into something stronger than you were. But you keep resisting. You keep waiting for the pressure to stop before you move. You keep thinking that formation should feel comfortable. And because of that misunderstanding, you stay formless. You stay weak. You stay stuck. Before I continue, answer one question honestly. How many dreams have you buried under the excuse of not yet? How many visions have you killed with the phrase, when the time is right? How many versions of your future self have you abandoned because the conditions weren't perfect? If you're still listening, something inside you is waking up. Something inside you is tired of the excuses. Something inside you knows that you've been lying to yourself about why you haven't started. And that something is your purpose, refusing to stay buried any longer. Here's what you don't understand about waiting. Every day you delay is not neutral. You think you're just postponing. You think you're just being cautious, but you're not. You're training yourself to be someone who waits. You're hardwiring your brain to choose comfort over courage. You're building a pattern of inaction that gets stronger every time you repeat it. And the longer you wait, the harder it becomes to start. Not because conditions get worse, because you get weaker. Your courage is a muscle, and right now it's atrophying. Every time you choose to wait for perfect conditions instead of moving with what you have, that muscle weakens. Every time you choose comfort over risk, it weakens. Every time you choose certainty over faith, it weakens. And eventually, you reach a point where even if perfect conditions showed up, you wouldn't have the strength to act on them. You've waited so long that you've forgotten how to move. But there's good news. The same way courage weakens through inaction, it strengthens through use. Every imperfect step you take rebuilds that muscle. Every time you move despite fear, you get stronger. Every time you start without having all the answers, you prove to yourself that you're capable of more than you thought. The conditions don't make you brave. The decision to move despite the conditions makes you brave. You've been treating your beginning like it needs permission, like it needs validation from the world before it's allowed to exist. But your beginning doesn't need the world's approval. It needs your obedience. It needs you to stop negotiating with it. Stop bargaining with it. Stop telling it that you'll start when things are better. Your beginning is here, right now, in these imperfect conditions, with these limited resources, with this incomplete knowledge. And it's whispering to you, start, move, build, create. Not tomorrow, not when you're ready, now. You were built for rough terrain. That's not poetry, that's design. Your entire system, everything about you was constructed to handle adversity. Your brain grows new pathways when it's challenged. Your muscles strengthen when they're torn and rebuilt. Your character deepens when it's tested. Your creativity explodes when resources are limited. Everything about you is designed to thrive under pressure, not in the absence of it. But you've been running from the very conditions that would activate your greatness. Look at a forest. Trees don't grow tall in perfect conditions. They grow tall in competition, in darkness, in the fight for sunlight. The strongest trees are the ones that had to push through the thickest canopy. The ones that had to develop deep roots because the soil was rocky. The ones that had to bend in the storm without breaking. Perfect conditions create weak trees. Perfect conditions create shallow roots. Perfect conditions create something that looks good but can't withstand real pressure. You're waiting for the easy path. But the easy path doesn't build you. It doesn't stretch you. It doesn't reveal what you're capable of. The rough terrain, the imperfect conditions, the obstacles you're facing right now, those aren't barriers to your success. Those are the training ground. Those are the resistance that builds strength. Those are the very things that will separate you from everyone else who quit when it got hard. There's a person lost in a city they don't know. No map, no GPS, no clear direction, just a destination in mind and a decision to move. They could stay where they are, wait for someone to give them directions. Wait for perfect clarity. Wait until they're sure. But they don't. They start walking. They make a turn. It's the wrong turn. They backtrack. They try another route. They act strangers. They make mistakes. They course correct. And eventually, they arrive. Not because they had perfect information, because they moved with imperfect information. That's the difference between people who reach their destination and people who stay lost forever. It's not knowledge, it's movement. The lost person who moves eventually finds their way. The lost person who waits for perfect clarity stays lost. You think you need to see the entire path before you take the first step, but that's not how paths work. The path reveals itself to those who walk it. You don't get clarity by thinking. You get clarity by doing. You learn by doing. You grow by starting. You win by moving. Not by planning better, not by preparing more, not by waiting longer. Those things have their place, but they're not substitutes for action. You can plan for a decade and still not be ready. You can prepare for years and still feel unqualified. You can wait for perfect conditions and watch your entire life pass you by. At some point, you have to make the decision that imperfect action is better than perfect inaction. Seasons of isolation aren't punishment. They're preparation. When you're alone, when support is scarce, when resources are limited, when nobody's watching, that's when the real work happens. That's when you develop the internal strength that no crowd can give you. That's when you build the foundation that nobody sees, but everybody stands on later. You think isolation means something is wrong. You think the absence of applause means you're off track, but some of the most significant growth happens in silence. Forests grow in silence. Mountains form in silence. Seeds germinate in silence. Strength builds in silence. And your transformation, the real one, the one that changes everything, it's happening right now in the quiet. In the place where nobody's cheering. In the season where conditions aren't perfect. In the moment where you feel most alone. That's not abandonment, that's development. That's you being shaped for something bigger than what you can currently handle. You grow in silence. You heal in silence. You rise in silence. The noise will come later. The crowd will come later. The recognition will come later. But right now, in this imperfect season, you're being built. And if you reject this season because it doesn't look like what you expected, if you refuse to move because conditions aren't ideal, you'll never be strong enough for what's coming. You'll never be ready for the weight of the blessing you're praying for. Your design includes adaptation. You're not a machine that only functions in one specific environment. You are a living, breathing, evolving being that can adjust to almost anything. You can learn new skills. You can develop new strategies. You can find solutions to problems you've never faced before. But none of that happens when you're comfortable. None of that happens when conditions are perfect. Adaptation is triggered by challenge, by difficulty, by the demand to survive and overcome. So when you say you're waiting for better conditions, what you're really saying is you're waiting to not have to adapt. You're waiting for a scenario where your current level of ability is enough, where you don't have to stretch, where you don't have to grow, where you don't have to become more than you are right now. And that version of success, the one that requires nothing from you, it doesn't exist. Every meaningful achievement demands that you become someone new in the process of pursuing it. Good is the enemy of right. You can be in a good situation and still be in the wrong place. You can have decent conditions and still be off course. You can be comfortable and still be unfulfilled. And that's the most dangerous trap of all. Because when things are bad, you're motivated to change. But when things are just good enough, you settle, you accept, you stop pushing. You convince yourself that wanting more is greedy or ungrateful. And you die slowly in the prison of pretty good. Perfect conditions aren't coming to rescue you. That moment where everything aligns, where all your fears disappear, where the path becomes obvious and easy, it's not real. It's a fantasy you've created to justify inaction. And the longer you wait for it, the more life you waste. The opportunity is now, the moment is now. The conditions you have right now, as imperfect as they are are enough to begin, not enough to finish, not enough to guarantee success, but enough to start. And starting is the only thing that matters right now. You don't need perfect conditions to begin. You need courage. You need faith. You need the willingness to look foolish. You need the strength to fail forward. You need the audacity to believe that your imperfect effort matters more than someone else's perfect plan. And when you finally make that decision, when you finally stop negotiating with your destiny and just move, you'll discover something that will change everything. The conditions weren't the problem. You were. There's a voice that's been calling you. You've heard it in the quiet moments, in the middle of the night when you can't sleep, in the shower when your mind wanders, in those brief seconds between tasks when your soul speaks louder than your schedule. That voice has been telling you the same thing over and over. It's time, not when you're ready, not when it's safe, not when you have guarantees. Now, right now, in the mess, in the uncertainty, in the imperfect conditions that you've been using as an excuse to stay small. And you know what that voice is? It's not anxiety, it's not confusion, it's not doubt. It's your destiny refusing to be silenced any longer. It's the version of you that already exists in the future, reaching back through time, begging you to move, begging you to start, begging you to stop killing what's trying to be born through you. Because every day you wait, you're not just delaying success. You're suffocating purpose. You're starving potential. You're choosing slow death over the risk of living fully. The cost of waiting is greater than the cost of starting. Let that sink in. You think you're protecting yourself by waiting. You think you're being smart. You think you're avoiding failure. But what you're really doing is guaranteeing regret. Because failure is a possibility when you start. But regret is a certainty when you don't. You can recover from failure. You can learn from it. You can grow through it. But regret is the wound that never heals. It's the question that haunts you forever. What if I had tried? What if I had moved? What if I hadn't waited? I'm telling you right now, the world is not waiting for your perfect version. The world needs your messy beginning. The world needs your rough draft. The world needs what's inside you, unpolished and raw and real. Because while you're sitting there trying to perfect something in private, someone somewhere is suffering without the solution you carry. Someone is lost without the guidance you have. Someone is dying without the hope you could give them. Your perfectionism isn't protecting quality. It's withholding help. You think your gift is for you, that your talent is about your success, that your calling is about your comfort. But it's not. It's about the people who need what you have. And they don't need it perfect. They need it now. They need it available. They need it in the world, not locked in your head, waiting for conditions that will never come. Your reluctance to begin isn't humility. It's selfishness. You're hoarding what was meant to be shared because you're afraid of what people will think. But let me tell you who you really are. You're not someone who waits for permission. You're not someone who needs perfect conditions. You're not someone who plays it safe. That's not your design. That's not your identity. That's just the mask you've been wearing because you forgot who you were. Somewhere along the way, you started believing the lies. The lies that said you're not enough. The lies that said you need more before you can start. The lies that said your beginning has to be impressive to matter. Strip all that away. Strip away the fear. Strip away the excuses. Strip away the false humility and the perfectionism and the need for approval. What's left? A person with a fire inside. A person with a vision that won't die. A person with a calling that keeps knocking no matter how many times you ignore it. That person, the real you, doesn't need perfect conditions. That person just needs to be unleashed. You are someone who moves despite fear. Say that out loud. I am someone who moves despite fear. You are someone who starts before they're ready. I am someone who starts before I'm ready. You are someone who builds in the dark. I am someone who builds in the dark. You are someone who trusts the process, even when you can't see the outcome. I am someone who trusts the process, even when I can't see the outcome. That's your identity. Not your circumstances, not your conditions, not your current level of preparedness. Your identity is rooted in movement, in courage, in the audacity to begin. And here's what happens. The moment you stop waiting and you move, everything shifts. Not externally. Externally, things might still be messy. Resources might still be limited. Conditions might still be imperfect. But internally, something breaks open. That paralysis that had you trapped, it shatters. That voice that kept telling you that you couldn't, it quiets. That fear that seemed so massive, it shrinks. Because fear grows in inaction. It feeds on hesitation. But the moment you move, you starve it. You prove to yourself that it was never as powerful as it pretended to be. Your imperfect start is better than someone else's perfect plan. Read that again. Your messy, uncertain, limited, flawed beginning carries more power than someone else's polished strategy that never leaves the drawing board, because your imperfect start exists in reality. It's tangible. It's real. It can grow. It can improve. It can become something. But their perfect plan, it's vapor, it's potential that never actualizes. It's a ghost of what could have been if they had the courage to make it real. The graveyard is full of perfect plans, full of brilliant ideas, full of world-changing visions that died because someone was waiting for perfect conditions. Don't take your beginning to the grave. Don't let your fear write the final chapter of your story. Don't let imperfect conditions rob the world of what's inside you, because what's inside you matters. It's needed. It's valuable. And it doesn't need to be perfect to make a difference. You're standing at a crossroads right now. One path leads to more waiting, more preparing, more someday. That path is familiar, it's comfortable, it's safe, and it leads to a life half lived. A life where you're always about to start, but never actually do. A life where your dreams become stories you tell yourself about what you almost did. The other path leads into imperfect action, into uncertain beginnings, into the risk of failure and the possibility of greatness. That path is terrifying. It's uncomfortable. It's unknown. And it leads to a life fully lived. A life where you become who you were meant to be. A life where your dreams become realities that change not just you, but everyone you touch. Which path are you choosing? Not tomorrow, not when you're ready, right now, today, this moment. Because this moment is all you have. This moment is where your entire future is created. And if you choose waiting again, if you choose comfort again, if you choose perfect conditions again, you're not just delaying your start, you are choosing who you're going to be. And that person is not who you were created to be. So move, start the project, make the call, take the step, launch the idea, write the first sentence, record the first video, have the conversation, submit the application, begin the journey. Do it scared, do it uncertain, do it imperfectly, but do it. Because your beginning, as messy as it is the only thing standing between you and everything you were meant to become. The world doesn't need another person waiting for perfect conditions. The world needs you, broken, unfinished, imperfect, but moving, but building, but creating, but alive. And when you look back on this moment years from now, you won't remember the fear. You won't remember the imperfect conditions. You'll only remember one thing, that this was the day you stopped waiting. This was the day you began. If this message spoke to your heart, share it with someone who needs hope today. And if you want more messages that grow your soul, subscribe, because your journey has just begun. You don't need perfect conditions to begin. You just need to begin. The difference between who you are now and who you're meant to become is not talent. It's not resources. It's not connections. It's not perfect conditions. The difference is one decision. The decision to move. The decision to start. The decision to stop negotiating with your destiny and submit to it completely. You spend enough time waiting. You spent enough time preparing. You've spent enough time convincing yourself that you need more before you can begin. And all that waiting has cost you, it's cost you time you'll never get back. It's cost you opportunities that won't come again. It's cost you the person you could have already become if you had started when the first call came. But here's the beauty of this moment. Right now, you get to choose differently. Right now, you get to break the pattern. Right now, you get to become someone who moves despite imperfect conditions instead of someone who waits for conditions that will never arrive. This moment, this very second, is your reset, your do-over, your chance to stop being who you've been and start being who you were created to be. And when you make that choice, when you finally move, you won't just change your circumstances, you'll change your identity. You'll become living proof that perfect conditions are not required for extraordinary outcomes. You'll become evidence that courage matters more than comfort. You'll become a walking testimony that the only thing holding most people back is the lie that they need to wait. Your beginning is waiting. It's been waiting this whole time, not for perfect conditions, not for ideal circumstances, not for the fear to disappear. It's been waiting for you, for the real you, the courageous you, the version of you that refuses to die with the music still inside. That version is ready. That version has always been ready. The question was never about readiness. The question was always about willingness. So I'm asking you one final time. Are you willing? Are you willing to start messy? Are you willing to fail forward? Are you willing to look foolish in pursuit of something meaningful? Are you willing to trade the comfort of waiting for the risk of becoming? Your answer to that question will determine everything. Not your conditions, not your resources, not your circumstances, your willingness. And if you're willing, if you're truly willing, then nothing can stop what's about to happen through you. Begin